Hi all, welcome to the Scottish Football season review. Obviously, Premiership nearly done and dusted. Obviously, the playoffs in each of the divisions still kind of like ongoing, as it were, in terms of like for Arbroath and like Inverness to determine who gets up, and then obviously for like St Johnstone Dundee situation and all that kind of stuff. So there's still quite a bit to kind of delve into, and we'll get through it as we can. But obviously work from top to bottom. So Scottish Premiership, obviously Celtic are the champions. Couple draws that could have nearly changed up. Obviously the Old Firm derby, if Rangers had won that, you'd have been going to the last day of the season, both of them on 88 points, especially with Celtic drawing to Dundee United in the Wednesday night game, and obviously quite a fair distance to Hearts, and quite a fair distance again to Motherwell. Obviously Livingston is worth highlighting, have 46 points, same as Motherwell, and then they could also at the same time debate saying, we've got the same amount of points as the team in fourth, why are we not like, this is when I feel like the split's redundant, and I'm of the mindset of we don't need to be a 12 team division anymore. When Rangers went into administration and they put them all the way down to divisions, this was the perfect time to expand the divisions to, in essence, not relegate Rangers. Like, you could say, oh, let's make it an 18 team division, keep Rangers in the top flight, and you'd be alright. And you could have got away with a couple other divisions. Like, it's, for me, it's boring. That's what I feel. I can't be bothered. Like, from not even from a Hibs view. If I was Celtic or Rangers or any team in the division, do you really want to be going using the like Hibs and Hearts? They don't really want to go all the way up to Dingwall, to Aberdeen twice a season. It's and this is what it comes down to. It's expensive. If you were to take the top 6 teams from the Scottish Championship for this season, so Kilmarnock, Arbroath, Inverness, Partick, Raith and Hamilton, if you say to those 6, say, right, we're going to promote you into the Premiership, we're going to have an 18 team division, and if I'm honest, like, you've got 3 central teams, Partick, Raith and Hamilton, because you've got Lanarkshire, Fife and Glasgow. You've got Ayrshire for Kilmarnock, Arbroath is like Angus, and Inverness obviously is Ross County, so it's not too bad for them, and same for Aberdeen. That's the way I would implement it. It's not hard, and the way I look at it as well, Kilmarnock's a big ground, Inverness is a half decent ground, for Hull, Raith and Hamilton have decent size, and it just, like, home and away, you literally say, oh, I've got a home. Like, for teams in the Premiership, I bet they'd be more delighted to have, like, the central teams, like your Livingstons, like your Hearts, Hibs, Dundee, Dundee United. They would be delighted just going to Raith or Hamilton or Partick. And Arbroath, they're not far trips. That's, and like, if you're only doing that once a season, it's not so bad, because it's, and I just feel Scottish football, that's where my kind of crux of it, this is where it's going to be more a gripe for a season review of all the divisions, because like, when I look at the Premiership, like, Hearts, fair play them for getting third, but between Motherwell, Dundee United, Ross County, Livy, St Mirren, Hibs, Aberdeen, St Johnstone, they've all been rotten for pretty much this basically all year. Like, I think the only team that's, like, you can't really say any of them's deserved, like Motherwell, they showed us statistics the other week there, I think it was before the I think it was Motherwell and Rangers on Sky, and they showed I think for Motherwell, since the start of the year, I think they're last for everything. It was like goals scored, chances created, passes, everything. It was like every statistic was like 12. It was like, and you say, well, Dundee's bottom of the league. How can they be that bad? And I think it was I think they showed. I can't remember if it was like Hibs and Hearts. Just before the end of the season, they showed the I think the same kind of figures. I think it was like Hibs. I think were 11th. I think they were 10 for 11th for statistics, and you're like, well, I can see why. And that was with them being like 4th at the time, and that's what, like, their form's been embarrassing. And same for like Dundee United's not been consistent. Neither has Aberdeen. They've obviously went through Stephen Glass and Jim Goodwin. Hibs have went through Jack Ross and Sean Maloney. St Mirren, obviously Goodwin went to Aberdeen, and that's where Stephen Robinson is. Malky Mackay, Tam Coots will be, like, Ross County were favourites for probably going down, and if to be top half they'll be delighted. Yes, they're missing out on Europe, but top 6 is still good for the coffers nonetheless. Dundee United and Motherwell, obviously European spots. I think it's just more a case of which round they would be in. It's like Motherwell would be a round further than Dundee United. That's what they're playing for. And Hearts obviously have European football till Christmas, so that helps their coffers. But yeah, like Dundee, St Johnstone, like, it's like, I feel sorry for Dundee going down, but like Aberdeen have just been completely abysmal this season, and like it's what to say really. But yeah, like for me, I'm just of the mindset where I would rather have 18 top division, 18 in the champ. You basically take all the teams, because you would still have you'd still have Morton, Ayr, Dunfermline, Queen of the South, and then obviously the teams in League 1, so that's 14, and then you'd take the top 4 from League 2 and you make that like a first division. So then you've got the 6 teams in League 2, but then you take the teams maybe from like the West of Scotland, the Lowland League. You'd be able to like basically have 3 divisions, so you'd have like those remaining, you'd have basically 12 teams you'd maybe take, and you know which 12 you would take, because you'd end up maybe taking like Spartans, Bonaire Groves, East Stirling, Berwick Rangers, East Kilbride. So you'd maybe give like 3, like whatever. You'd basically suss it out quite strategically almost, depending on how they set it up. But as I said, Premiership, not really much to say. Like, fair play to Celtic winning the league and the League Cup. Rangers, fair play on potentially winning Scottish Cup, and they've also got the Europa League final to look forward to as well. And I think they'll win it. I genuinely think they will. Frankfurt, for me, I don't see like it'd be a nice story that Rangers beating 3 German teams en route to winning it. It's like, and it's almost like the scale, like people would say the scales went down, which is kind of true, because Dortmund's seen as the 2nd best team, Leipzig's seen as like 3rd or 4th best team, and Frankfurt for a period were maybe say about the 6th or 7th best team in Germany, and now they've drifted off this season terribly. But that's what they have to expect. And I think Hearts, if they get some good signings in, bulk up the squad accordingly, because I still feel they actually lack depth and a bit of quality in some departments. Like, they're still fair play to them for finishing 3rd. I just feel that there's elements in the squad that lack a little bit. And Gordon, like say Gordon and Halkett, they've probably been a big reason, like say 10 or 12 points are the reason why they've got 3rd. And if I'm honest, teams like Motherwell, Hibs, Aberdeen, Dundee United, if they'd been consistent, they would have been challenging for 3rd. You'd maybe have, like, that's why there's such a big gap between Rangers and Hearts, and then Hearts and everybody else. It's because everyone else below Hearts, there's no consistency. and that kind of shows in the goals scored, goals against, and goal difference, and their end points. Let's see. So we'll wrap it up for there. Championship. I was gutted for Arbroath not going up automatically. It would have been a nice story to see them win the league, but Derek McInnes came in, did a job, and got them up. So fair play to him. He's been there, done it before with St Johnstone, so he knew what to expect. Obviously, Arbroath and Inverness have their second leg to deal with. I'd like Arbroath to win that, and I'd still like them to go up. I think if Arbroath gets St Johnstone, Arbroath will be a win. I think they'll be up for it more, because they've only lost 5 times this season. What's let them down is the amount of draws. That is pretty much it. They've been a draw specialist. 14 games they've drew this season, and 54. For me, it'd be a nice story. I'd like to see Arbroath, and it's worth highlighting that they are a part-time team. They were expected not to even go up, or even be in the playoffs. They were expected to be going down, but they've exceeded all expectations, and fair play to them. So obviously the biggest talking point from the Championship this season in general, other than Arbroath, was Rafe. David Goodwillie was signed in January, and that just went disaster. And that kind of derailed their season really, because I think Rafe put negative press on them and all that kind of stuff. If that hadn't happened on the squad at all, they could have been in the playoffs over Partick, and they could have been maybe challenging to get up, but is what it is. Hamilton, I thought would do better. Same for Dunfermline, if I'm honest. Ayr, I think they're just happy to stay up. I think obviously under Derek McCall, when they had Shankland up front, there was that wee bit of expectation because they've got someone that's scoring goals for them, but obviously these days it's a wee bit trickier. But that's football for you. Dunfermline under Yogi, I was quite surprised because I think their squad is pretty impressive. It's just not performed as expected. And Queen of the South, just unlucky really. The years of Stephen Dobie up front for them no longer being their goals, and in the end it catches up on you really, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. Oh, wash me. Sorry about that. Enjoyed a wee sneeze in between recordings. League One, Cove Rangers looked pretty comfortable in the end. Fair play to them. Queen's Park for a while looked like we're going to be a threat. Airdrie, another team equally impressive this season. But Montrose, I didn't expect. I think if you looked at the start of the season, you would have said maybe Alloa and Falkirk would probably be in the mix for going up, but not to be. East Fife going down, just not happened at all this season. Dumbarton going down because obviously they lost to Edinburgh in the playoffs, so quite convincingly as well. So that's I think the first time in about a decade that they've been in basically League Two. So a bit of work to be done there. Clyde, obviously we know the situation with them with Goodwillie, and then it's just you'd think initially when you had Goodwillie, because he's a goal scorer, and he was the top scorer in Scotland I think when he was signed by Rafe, so you'd say in theory, that might just help Clyde's case for promotion, but not to be. Peterhead finished with a late flurry, maybe start next season with that, you never know, they could be a challenge for going up. But Cove obviously doing back to back. Will they do back to back to back? That was the question. And getting themselves in the Premiership, you never know. Could be like an a la Gretna, but only 3 losses all season. But it's Airdrie, Montrose, Queen's Park just lack consistency really, in terms of trying to get themselves up there at the end of the day. And obviously Falkirk relying on John McGinn to maybe try and get them up next season. So see how that one plays out. Obviously League 2 wise, Celtic going up quite convincingly. I think they were kind of expected because of their circumstances, and also when you look at the division, a lot of the teams generally will fight it out, like amongst, whereas Celtic are obviously going in as the new team in the division, obviously getting promoted, and trying to say, right, we're like the new team in the block in the pyramid, let's show the squad depth that we've got and so forth, and say, right, let's get up there. And they've got pretty convincingly. Obviously Forfar finished second and Annan were third. Obviously in Edinburgh eked in the playoffs in the end. They made it hard work of that. I think there was an expectation. They were expected to do better this season, to challenge for the title, especially after missing out on promotion last season through the playoffs. And obviously Edinburgh and Annan's second leg to determine who will go up. By the time this goes live, that game will have been played. But obviously Edinburgh won the first leg 2-0, and Alan Maybury came in, steadied the ship, because Gary Naismith was sacked quite oddly, because it was like four games in the trot or something they won, and it was always, and a lot of the games that Edinburgh City were getting were Friday night games. It was always interesting, it was always quite fun to kind of keep an eye on a Friday night. Edinburgh's at Spartans, but that was also because the ground sharing at Spartans, they had to kind of accommodate that. They couldn't play games on a Saturday if Spartans were playing at home. Obviously they're hoping to get back to Meadowbank for next season, that is, I believe, the expectation and the hope. So if Meadowbank's up and ready for next season, then I'm sure the fans will be delighted to see Edinburgh in a new stadium, well, like a rebuilt stadium as it were. So we'll see how that one plays out. Stenhousemuir, unlucky in the end. Like Stranraer always there or thereabouts. Stirling Albion's a funny one, I suppose, because I feel they could do better, but I suppose that's like circumstances. Albion Rovers, they're probably just delighted to still stay up. Elgin, I think there was an expectation this season that they would do better, but not to be. Cowdenbeath bottom of the league again, and as far as led to believe at the moment, like they could be in, like, not necessarily I tell a lie that by the time this goes live, they'll either be down or not, is what I should mean, because they obviously lost the first leg 3-0 to Bonnyrigg Rose. Bonnyrigg, would be nice to see them up. They're fairly local to me anyway, so it's like, it brings back the debate that we mentioned at the start of the Scottish Football like review. If you were to go through like the Lowland League, and I mean it, like if you were to go through the Lowland League, the West of Scotland, and the Highland League, and say, right, we want basically 6 teams. If you take this, like, and I mean it, if you were to say 18 teams in the Premiership, because think about it, there's 42 teams in just now, so you've got 18 from the top division, 18 in the Championship, so you've got 6 teams to make up from, and you've basically got 6 spots from League 2, if you've done your maths, left, because obviously the top 4 in League 2 make up the last 4 spots in the Championship. So you've got 6 spots filled currently, so it's like from 5th to second, 5th to bottom. You basically say, right, we're going to take the top. You don't take the top 6 from the Lowland League. You would take Bonnyrigg. You don't take Rangers or Celtic because they're the B teams. You keep them in that division. You bring up East Kilbride. You bring up Spartans. You bring up East Stirling, you bring up Civil Service, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Berwick Rangers. That'd be your 6. That's your 6 teams up, and you say, right, that's 12, or you just make it 4, 4 and 4. So you'd make it Bonnyrigg, East Kilbride, Spartans, East Stirling. You do it that way. So that way it's, if you keep it to 18, your top 4 from, say, the like the West of Scotland top division, so that would be Darvel, Auchinleck, Pollock and Clydebank. So you give, and you've got to remember as well, a number of these teams are in like the Scottish Cup, for example. So, and you're basically trying to give these teams an opportunity to be, in essence, playing top like pyramid football, as it were. So, and then obviously for the Highland League, you give it to Fraserburgh, Buckie, Brecon City, and Brora Rangers. And like I've said enough, plenty of folk I know have said the same, and like it makes it just that little bit, not necessarily easier, but you've also got to remember the likes of Fraserburgh, Buckie, and Brora. These teams have put good money into their teams to try and get up the division in the first place, into the proper football pyramid. So it's like, if they're putting the money in, you say, well, is it really that hard to let them, like, yes, the Highland League, you could say with the Highland League, the West of Scotland and the Lowland League, it's how non-league football works. But you've got to remember, we're at the stage now where like, is it really that hard to say that the 18 teams you've got in the Premiership, the 18 teams you've got in the Championship, and then 18 teams in League 1, you just keep it to 3 divisions. You just kind of abandon the League 2. If you wanted to, the League 2 is you make that your B teams, as it were, like your 4, like Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, anyone that's got a B team, put them in that division. So that way, the teams in the Lowland League, for example, they aren't affected. Like maybe a couple of their those spots get given to like other teams in the areas that kind of would like it, as it were. So like Rangers and Celtic. If there's like, obviously with Edinburgh University at Stirling, you might have like a couple of the other uni teams maybe want spots or whatever. You work it out accordingly. It's just a bit of common sense, really. That's the way I would look at it, and I think that's where like I would probably end up like debating it on, like, to people saying like it almost feels like it needs debate to Scottish football to say, like, look, this is what we need, let's do a change, and it'd just be more, I'd be more into it. Like, if I was honest, I would find myself planning out games more. I would, and I bet other people would as well. Like, because if you think about it, Bonnyrigg Spartans, you've got basically an Edinburgh team and a just outside Edinburgh team. So your teams in League 2, depending on who's in it at the point. So like the likes of your Stenhousemuir, Stranraer, Stirling, Albion, Elgin, Cowdenbeath, they've not got far to travel. Elgin's obviously not got far to travel for the teams in the Highland Division, so it's not so bad for them. But there's logistics about it. It's not hard, and I think that's just kind of what's needed. It's maybe, and I think that's why I hate the whole like 11-1 rule. Like, the minute one team says nah, or two teams that's like nah. So like, if it's 7-5, they had the chance, as I said, when Rangers went at the wall, they had the chance when Hibs and Hearts, because when you had Rangers, Hibs and Hearts all in the one division for like 2 seasons, basically, like 1 or 2 seasons, enough, and you're like, really? Do you really want 3 of your biggest teams in Scotland in one division? Yes, it made for great viewing, but at the same time, do you really want that? Not really. And then also for seasons when we've had like Dundee United drop down, and it's just, I feel we just need to really change up how we operate. I feel split needs to go, league expansion, and like when COVID happened as well, that was the perfect time to finally say, right, let's expand all the divisions. But a lot of the teams are too comfortable because they know they can go to the Old Firm like twice a season. But it's like you've got the other 30 teams in Championship, League 1 and League 2 to factor in. yes, the money that all those teams made when Rangers were coming up the division was great, but it's not the point. You've got all the other teams in the Lowland, the Highland and West of Scotland to factor in as well. And also any other, maybe see other divisions that kind of factor in the pyramid, as it were. But yeah, there needs to be, I feel like, a bit more. I think Scottish football needs a serious revamp in my eyes. And I get the feeling it's not going to happen this season, as in for 22-23, and I don't see it happening for 23-24 unless something drastically happens. Because the way I would look at it as well, you've got to remember, because Celtic and Rangers doing so well the last few seasons with the coefficient getting up to 9th, and I'm now starting to have to defend more points, this season in particular will play a factor 5 years down the line, because this season will be the most amount of points regardless that they'll have to defend, and unless between now and then that Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Motherwell, Dundee United, whoever else that contribute over between now and the next 5 seasons, however many points, that you never know. Like next season could be the most up till this, so it's like this season and next season could be the most, and then it's see how it goes for there to kind of factor it, because there is a chance that Scotland could get higher. But then if they thought about it, if they expanded the league to like 18, they might find UEFA say, oh, we'll give you 6 spots in Europe, top 2 gets the Champions League, 3rd and 4th gets the Europa League, 5th and 6th will give the Conference League. And it would be, you'd be like, well, that's not bad, top 6. That's the way you'd look, and you'd say, well, that's what we're at the now. But they would say, UEFA might say, because you're a 12 team top division just now, we can only give 5 spots, but if you were an 18, we'll give you 6. And we'll say league expansion, and plus TV rights would be more appealing as well, because you'd be like, oh, we're live. You'd have Sky and BBC would maybe want to put more money into it, for example, and BT and so forth. There's so many variables yet. I think the clubs are just too set in their ways. That's the problem, and even the fans maybe are as well. Like, and I think that's what I'm going to hopefully maybe debate on, maybe over the summer. Maybe structure a footballing debate, as it were. Maybe build up a wee report saying to do with this, like Scottish football, the rethink, league expansion or whatever. But we're rambling on, folks. As I say, there's just the review. I knew was going to cover mostly the divisions in general, like not just the top 4, but also all the other divisions, like the Lowland League and that. Because I feel sorry for like Darvel, and I feel sorry for Fraserburgh for like missing out on like a chance to get into the like League 2, as it were. Like they've worked hard, and it's just, I suppose, the way it pans out, as it were. And especially when you look at all the divisions in across the board, that there is teams that will say that they feel they're good enough to get up the divisions, as it were, which I can fully probably agree with, especially if you present the opportunities to them. But see what happens, and we'll take it from there. But let me know, folks, what your thoughts are on Scottish football this season, if you found it good and different, all that kind of good stuff. What's your expectations for your team if you're a Scottish football fan, and also what you think expectations in general for next season are. Like, because obviously the trophies, the assumption is always going to be Celtic and Rangers, but League Cup and Scottish Cup, and also the Challenge Cup, as it were, certainly can bring intrigue nonetheless. So take it easy all, thanks for listening, and I will catch you all later.